If you are new to this series, we have been going through every single national title claim in college football history for the FBS or highest level at the time it was claimed. At this time, we have covered all the teams that have claimed 5 titles or less and are moving on to the higher numbers. Please go back and watch those for me after this if you enjoy this sort of thing. Prior to the college football playoffs and BCS national title game, we relied only on the polls to determine the college football national champion, with some formulas and short-lived systems in between attempting to better things. The polling system failed many times, with as many as 4 to 6 teams in contention that never even played each other. This often resulted in many split national championship years. Prior to 1965, some polls voted on their national champions before the bowl games were even played, and then saw their champion lose their final game. If you go back a little further, the first attempt to straighten things out came in 1936 with the creation of the AP poll, and was often the most respected poll for many years. But even then, the early media had their biases and favorites due to what they were familiar with. If all the writers and voters only saw Notre Dame or Yale, they would have no way to compare it to what was going on down south or out west, and usually just sided with what they knew. Prior to the AP, we had a wild, lawless 67 years of college football where many or no teams called themselves national champions, and a lot of those teams didn't even claim national titles in this era until more modern polls went back and retroactively named them national champions. While the AP poll is often the benchmark for a champion from 1936 to 1998, I would still argue that point. If the AP named you champion and nobody else did, that smells a bit fishy. Personally, I tend to side with what a majority of the polls say. So if the AP says you are the champ, but 11 others don't, I look deeper into the situation. And that's just me. You are free to do or think whatever you like.
Jerry, just remember, it's not a lie if you believe it.
And of course, I view any titles won through the playoffs or BCS title game as automatically 100% legit from the start of the video, even if you disagree with the selection committee. And yes, I have also disagreed with them plenty of times. On the flip side, any that claim a separate title outside of those official parameters I view as complete bullshit, whether the selection committee screwed said team or not. History is history, and I respect that fact even if I dislike that fact. For the purposes of this channel, I'm only going by what the school actually claims. I will do a series covering unclaimed titles later on. I have added a layer to my tiers and now broken them down into 5 sections. 100% legit, debatable but fair, I see your argument but no, complete bullshit, and introducing 1941 Alabama, which will be reserved for the most imaginary or dumb claims that exist. The Ohio State, easily one of the most storied programs in college football history. Nearly 105,000 come to watch these guys play each home game of the season, and as of this writing, are set to hit 1,000 all-time wins in 2026, putting them in the ranks of only their most hated pals, Michigan. There is no shortage of legendary games, teams, players, coaches, and moments from this program. But aside from an astounding 41 conference titles, the Buckeyes claim 9 national championships, which is tied for 6 all-time and tied for 4th among teams currently at the FBS level with Pitt and Auburn. We know Pitt and Auburn were not all legit, so now let's see if Ohio State can separate themselves from the other 9 claimers, and I have a good feeling that they might, especially once we get to the most recent few. OH! The first claim for Ohio State comes from the 1942 season. After a 6-1-1 season that saw the team finish number 13 the year prior, the Buckeyes under second-year head coach Paul Brown, yes, the soon-to-be founder and namesake of the Cleveland Browns, were looking good heading into 1942. The team first blew out Fort Knox somehow, which we've all been told is impenetrable, before continuing to beat Indiana 32-21 and USC 28-12 to rise to a number 1 ranking. From there, the team beat Purdue 26-0 and Northwestern 20-6 to start the first half of the season perfect. On Halloween, the Buckeyes lost 17-7 at number 6 Wisconsin. The loss dropped OSU to number 6, but the team won out from there, beating Pitt, number 13 Illinois, number 4 Michigan, and Iowa pre-flight. Now before I continue, I will remind people that these military base camps were not always considered cakewalks, with some of them consisting of former stars from other teams to form somewhat of a super team. This was not always the case, but just consider that. For more context, I talk about that subject deeper in other videos with claims around war times like Minnesota and Pitt. Iowa pre-flight of 1942 were 7-3-1 for the record, which put them around 8th among service camps. Anyways, Ohio State was voted AP poll national champion at 9-1. The other team claiming this one is Georgia. In my Georgia video, I called the Dogs' claim debatable but fair. Georgia went 11-1 with a loss to an unranked Auburn team. Now that sounds pretty damning at first, but they also won the Rose Bowl over number 13 UCLA. Even more so, during the season, Georgia beat number 3 Alabama 21-10 and stomped number 2 Georgia Tech 34-0. They also got the praise of almost everyone else except the AP poll, either at the time or retroactively. 1942 is kind of like an AP versus a majority situation, and neither seems wrong. But also, by that logic, neither can fully be right. While I initially thought this one would be 100% for Ohio State, it has become clear that there is a lot of debate and that both teams are really at damn near an even split. For that reason, I have 1942 Ohio State at debatable but fair. Our next claim of 1954 comes under fourth-year legend Woody Hayes, and if you don't know who that is, someone should punch you in the throat. Having done little to nothing in his first 3 seasons, Ohio State was understandably unranked to start the season. But after beating Indiana 28-0, the Buckeyes found themselves at number 14 by week 2. From there, the team would go on to win key matchups over the likes of number 18 Cal 21-13, number 13 Illinois 40-7, number 2 Wisconsin 31-14, number 20 Pitt 26-0, number 12 Michigan 21-7, and finally number 17 USC 20-7 in the Rose Bowl to finish 10-0. They were named AP National Champions. However, UCLA was named Coaches Poll National Champions, and yes, they do claim it. In their video, I called that claim 100% legit. The Bruins also went undefeated at 9-0, and they ravaged teams, but due to a no-repeat clause within the Rose Bowl, we were literally denied Ohio State versus UCLA for the undisputed title. Now, if you want to split hairs, yes, Ohio State had a better schedule beating 6 ranked teams, but the USC game is where you have to give some credit by comparison. UCLA beat them 34-0 compared to Ohio State's 20-7 margin. You would have to think UCLA would have been favored in the hypothetical matchup. They also both played Cal, with UCLA winning by 21 and Ohio State by 8. And Cal was one of the Buckeyes' ranked wins. Despite not playing as many ranked teams officially, on paper, UCLA seems just as good, if not a little better. I'm fine with an even split, and this one will be 100% for Ohio State as well. They were both uncrowned undisputed champion. That would have been an awesome Rose Bowl. Only a few years later, in 1957, is claim number 3. Ohio State went and lost Game 1 to TCU 18-14. That Horned Frog team ended up at 5-4-1. That is a tough-looking start. From there, the team went on to beat the likes of number 5 Iowa 17-13 and number 19 Michigan 31-14. The Buckeyes then beat an unranked Oregon 10-7 in the Rose Bowl, with the Ducks only being there due to that same no-repeat clause again. The Coaches Poll and the Football Writers Association of America named Ohio State national champions. Auburn and Michigan State also claimed this one. I called the Spartans bullshit in this claim, and for more context, please check out that video. Auburn, on the other hand, I called 100%, but it is a bit messy. Auburn had paid 2 recruits $500 and were on probation, but this probation did not say they could not be champions, just a bowl ban. So more of a restriction. That sounds dumb, but that was their ruling, and the voters heavily picked them. The Tigers were dominant at times and won a perfect 10-0. They were named national champions by nearly everyone, including the AP poll. I'd be just fine letting Ohio State have this one if Auburn's punishment included a no championship stipulation, but that isn't what was given. And especially if the Buckeyes had also been undefeated. Even without the bowl, the two played the same number of games. 1957 belongs to Auburn even if the circumstances are a little odd. Ohio State is going to have to be, I see your argument, but no. If the offense was seen as super horrific, they should have banned the voters and polls from voting for them and made them ineligible, but that is not what happened. 1961 is our next claim up, and eerily, it also begins with a 7-7 tie to a bad TCU team, who went on to finish 3-5-2. From there, the team swept the remaining schedule with one ranked win over number 9 Iowa 29-13 along the way to finish 8-0-1. The team actually turned down an invite to the Rose Bowl because the university did not want to become known as a football school. The hell? I have heard that statement in my studies before, but it was usually something schools said in the very early years, not within my parents' lifetime. The team finished ranked number 2 in both major polls. A single selector, the Football Writers Association of America, chose Ohio State for some reason. Now, I could just let this go, and I will in a moment, but I had to see what the hell happened here. The person running the FWAA at the time was Burt McGrain, a devout Midwesterner for 45 years. Alabama also claims this title. You know why? Because they went 11-0, were ranked number 1 across the board, and were named consensus national champions here by everyone except the FWAA. You are reaching here, Buckeyes. The FWAA had a decent reputation and didn't make too many controversial picks, so I won't say this is one of those off-the-charts made-up claims, but it's kinda close. The 1961 claim is nonetheless complete bullshit. 1968 is the next claim to fame. The team began with fair expectations entering the season at number 11. In Game 3, now ranked number 4, the Buckeyes took down number 1 Purdue 13-0 to rise to number 2. They would remain there for the rest of the regular season, beating number 16 Michigan State 25-20 and number 4 Michigan along the way. The Buckeyes entered the Rose Bowl to face number 1 USC, and luckily, the AP poll had just recently permanently adopted the practice of naming champions after the bowls, in this very season in fact. Despite being 10-10 at the half, Ohio State pulled away for the 27-16 win to defeat OJ and the Trojans. At 10-0, the team was named consensus national champions, and nobody even disputes this one. This is obviously 100% legit. 1969 had been so close as well, but a season finale loss to Michigan destroyed everything for the Buckeyes, who had been number 1 all season long. So in 1970, the team was expecting a lot. The team carried that momentum starting out at number 1. The team went perfect through the regular season, beating the likes of number 20 Northwestern 24-10 and avenging the 1969 loss to Michigan by beating the number 4 Wolverines 20-9. For whatever reason, the team had dropped all the way to number 5 at one point, but the game against the Wolverines got them back up to number 2, entering the Rose Bowl against number 12 Stanford. The Cardinal pulled off the upset in the granddaddy of them all, 27-17. The National Football Foundation decided it would name the recently upset team as co-national champion. What the hell are we even doing here? Texas and Nebraska also claimed this one. In their videos, I said I saw Texas's argument, but no. For Nebraska, I said 100% legit. For the record, the NFF's other co-champion was Texas and not Nebraska. The NFF loses all credibility here by not picking the clear champion Nebraska, but instead splitting it between the two non-legit. And yeah, I get that Texas got the coaches poll, but they were still naming their champions before the bowl loss of the Longhorns. Therefore, this baby is going in the 1941 Alabama tier. Alright guys, so this is obviously where all debates end, for me at least. But humor me and come along for a trip down memory lane. Except maybe Miami fans. In 2001, Jim Tressel went only 7-5 but was building big things in his first season as head coach, so by 2002, expectations were growing. The Buckeyes entered the season ranked a modest number 13. They started climbing the ladder in Game 3 by beating number 10 Washington State 25-7. After beating number 17 Penn State 13-7 and number 23 Minnesota 34-3 in back-to-back weeks, they had risen to number 2. They would retain this mark after beating number 9 Michigan 14-9 in the regular season finale to carry that number 2 ranking into the BCS National Championship game against number 1 Miami in the Fiesta Bowl. and this was no ordinary game. The teams traded scores the whole game, with Miami kicking a game-tying 40-yard field goal with zeros on the clock. In overtime, Miami scored on a 7-yard pass from Ken Dorsey to Kellen Winslow. Then, the Canes won the game when Ohio State failed to score on 4th down. Or did they? What seemed like 20 seconds later, a flag for pass interference was called. Following that, the Buckeyes ran it in from 1, then scored another touchdown in overtime number 2 from 5 yards out. Miami, now facing the 4th down, could not convert, and the Buckeyes won the national championship. What is my opinion on this play? I have no clue. I remember watching it in real time and was shocked. And yes, I am old enough to have seen this as it really happened, unlike seemingly most other college football content creators. I think in the moment, I was cheering for Miami. Truth be told, I was actually just bitter number 3 Georgia wasn't in the game, but that's our own fault. As the years go by, I'm still not sure if Miami was screwed or if it was a good call. The only constant feeling I don't like is how late the flag was thrown, but regardless of any feelings I have, this title is 100% legit. 2014 is the next one. Over the next 11 years, the Buckeyes stayed in contention and even made it to the title game a few times, only to fall short. But then we got a playoff, even if it was only 4 teams. Ohio State, led by the Cum, get it? Coach Urban Meyer, CUM. Okay, they were ranked number 5 to start the season, but lost 35-21 at home against unranked Virginia Tech. Now ranked 22nd, the team chugged along through 6 unranked wins to reach the tougher part of the schedule. From there, OSU beat number 8 Michigan State 49-37 and number 25 Minnesota 31-24 to raise their stock to number 6. After closing out the regular season with a pair of wins, the team absolutely blasted number 13 Wisconsin 59-0 in the Big 12 title game to grab the number 4 seed in the first ever playoff. In said playoffs, Ohio State beat number 1 Alabama 42-35 to reach the championship game against number 2 Oregon, who had spanked number 3 Florida State. Ohio State then blew out Oregon 42-20. This title is 100% legit, of course, and was, in my opinion, a huge win for the sport as a whole. The team that in any prior season they would have had as their 4th best team was in fact the future champion, and validated the entire playoff system despite its imperfections and needs to grow. And finally, not so long ago, in 2024, we had a team honestly hungry to get everyone's mind off Michigan. Entering as preseason number 2, it was weird to say that Coach Ryan Day was on the hot seat even with all his wins. After a 5-0 start, the team lost at number 3 Oregon in a 32-31 thriller. Over the next 5 games, they would get key wins over number 3 Penn State 20-13 and number 5 Indiana 38-15. But then, in the game, they let 6-5 Michigan come into their house and win 13-10. This loss dropped the team from number 2 to number 8 and out of the Big Ten title game, which, in the newly expanded 12-team playoff, was no problem. Once in the playoffs, this team became unstoppable, which was honestly really just them playing to their potential more than randomly getting hot, as this roster was loaded. Maybe the funniest part of this run was Game 1 when Tennessee said they were going to come take over Columbus, which to their credit they did bring a good chunk of fans to watch Ohio State win 42-17. The Buckeyes then took out number 1 Oregon 41-21 and number 5 Texas 28-14. In the national championship game, they defeated number 7 Notre Dame, making them the first team to win in the first year of the 4-team playoff and the 12-team format of the college football playoffs history. It also once again proved that a lower seed could win from right off the bat. 100% legit, of course. So there we have the 9 claims. By my count, I give them the college football playoffs, the BCS, and 3 more additional titles from the poll eras. In my eyes, Ohio State is a 6-time national champion. 9 sounds fun, but 3 of those are just too much of a stretch or a downright exaggeration. Lately in this series, I've been ending with my thoughts on if I think the team in question will be adding to the trophy case anytime soon, like within the next 5 to 10 years. Yes, they absolutely will. It will be some kind of miracle if they don't. Every single year they start in the top 3, Every year they recruit in the top 3. Every year they get a huge transfer class. And with 12 teams now, they are almost a lock right out of the gate to make a playoff spot. The NIL era and transfers and all the things changing, they have adapted to more than maybe anybody. Like the opposite of Clemson. They have plenty of boosters and support to push that NIL weight around. Maybe the only thing that ever holds them back is coaching, and I honestly think critics are a little too harsh on Ryan Day. I understand you want to beat Michigan, but he's done nearly everything else you could want and is probably only 2 years from making his record against them even. So do I see the Buckeyes winning another title in the next 5 to 10? They could win between 5 and 10 championships in that time frame. I hope not. That wouldn't be any fun for the rest of us, but all the resources and talent are there. But yeah, if they don't win at least one in that time frame, we would probably all be shocked. And there we go. If you feel I was unfair or missed a piece of info, go ahead and make your case in the comments. Please go check out the other videos in this series. There is a playlist for them, and we are in the final stretch. I believe there's only about 6 teams left to go, and these are heavy hitters, and these videos might take me a little time, so just be patient. And remember, this is just one guy on YouTube who did some research and gave an opinion. I'm sure I won't change any fan base's opinion on the titles they choose to boast about, and certain fan bases have made that pretty clear thus far. This has been College Football Chronicles, and I hope you join me next time.